morning sun cast long shadows across Maple Street Elementary as Sarah Chen pulled the yellow school bus to a gentle stop. To the rushing parents and sleepy children, she was just another quiet bus driver, small-framed, soft-spoken, wearing the same Navy uniform every day. They saw her patient smile as kindergartners struggled up the steep steps, heard her gentle reminders about staying seated. What they didn't see were the calloused hands that once commanded a 68-ton M1A2 Abrams tank through the unforgiving terrain of Afghanistan. What they couldn't know was that behind those kind eyes lay the steely resolve of a woman who had earned her place in one of the military's most elite armored divisions, breaking barriers in a world where few women dared to tread. But sometimes, the past has a way of revealing itself when you least expect it. Every morning at exactly 7:15, Sarah Chen would arrive at the Riverside School District Depot, her thermos of coffee in one hand and her worn leather bag in the other. At 5'3" and barely 120 pounds, she moved through the bustling garage like a shadow among giants. The other drivers, mostly burly men who'd been working these routes for decades, would nod politely but rarely engaged her in conversation. To them, Sarah was just the quiet Asian woman who'd taken over bus Route 47 3 years ago. Reliable, punctual, but unremarkable. "Morning, Sarah," called out Big Mike, a bear of a man who drove the high school route. His voice carried that patronizing tone people often used with her, the same one she'd heard countless times before. "Another beautiful day to babysit the little ones, huh?" He chuckled, not maliciously, but with the casual dismissiveness of someone who saw her job as the easy assignment. The route they gave to drivers who couldn't handle the real challenges. Say, Ra simply smiled and continued her pre-trip inspection of Bus 47. She ran her hands along the yellow exterior, checking for damage, her movements precise and methodical. What the other drivers didn't notice was the way she examined every detail, not just the obvious things like lights and mirrors, but the tire wear patterns that could indicate alignment issues, the subtle signs of metal fatigue around the wheel wells, the hydraulic fluid levels that most drivers ignored until something went wrong. Her inspection was thorough, professional, and revealed a level of mechanical knowledge that seemed incongruous with her gentle demeanor. As she climbed into the driver's seat, Sarah adjusted her rearview mirror with the same careful precision she'd once used to align the thermal imaging systems on an M1A2 Abrams tank. But that was a lifetime ago, in a place where the morning sun rose over mountains that hid dangers her current passengers couldn't even imagine. The children began boarding at Sarah's first stop on Elm Street, their backpacks bouncing as they climbed the steps with the boundless energy that only elementary school students possessed. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen," chirped Emma, a precocious second grader who always sat in the third row. Sarah's face lit up with genuine warmth. This was the part of her job that made everything worthwhile. "Good morning, Emma. Did you remember your library book today?" Sarah's voice was soft, patient, carrying none of the authority that had once commanded respect from soldiers twice her size. She watched in her mirrors as more children filled the seats, their chatter creating a symphony of innocence that was both beautiful and heartbreaking to someone who'd seen what the world could really be like. At the Morrison Avenue stop, trouble started brewing. 12-year-old Jake Patterson, a kid with a reputation for pushing bound. Aries decided to assert his dominance over the younger children. "Move it, babies," he sneered, shoving past a group of kindergartners. "This is my seat now." Sarah watched through her mirror as Jake's aggression escalated, his voice getting louder, his pushes getting harder. "Jake, please take your assigned seat," Sarah called back, her tone still gentle but carrying an undertone that made several children look up. There was something in her voice, not anger, but a quality that suggested she was accustomed to being obeyed. Jake, however, was too wrapped up in his performance to notice. "Make me, lady," he shot back, crossing his arms defiantly. "What are you going to do about it? You're just a bus driver." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and for just a moment Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her knuckles went white, not from fear or frustration, but from the effort it took to maintain her civilian persona when every instinct screamed at her to establish order with the kind of authority she'd once wielded over men and women in combat. The situation might have continued as a typical classroom management issue, but fate had other plans. As Sarah pulled away from the Morrison Avenue stop, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. In her driver's side mirror, she caught sight of a dark sedan that had been following her route for the past 3 stops. The car maintained a consistent distance, never getting close enough to be obvious but never falling far enough behind to be coincidental. Sarah's training kicked in automatically. She began performing what the military called surveillance detection. Subtle changes in speed and direction to confirm whether she was being followed. When she slowed for a speed bump, the sedan slowed. When she turned left onto Maple Street instead of continuing straight on her normal route, the sedan turned as well. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. Her mind raced through possibilities. Was this a disgruntled parent? A predator targeting children? Or something more sinister? Something connected to her past life, the classified missions she'd been part of, the enemies she'd made in places whose names couldn't appear in any school district records? The children on her bus continued their innocent chatter, completely unaware that their quiet, unassuming driver was now operating in full tactical mode. Sarah reached for her radio with one hand while maintaining perfect control of the bus with the other. Her movements were calm, deliberate, betraying none of the adrenaline that was now coursing through her veins. 28 children depended on her, and she would not let them down. As she keyed the microphone, her voice remained steady, professional, the voice of someone accustomed to maintaining composure under pressure. "Dispatch, this is Bus 47. I need you to contact the police immediately. I have a possible security situation." The dispatcher's voice crackled through the radio with barely controlled panic. "Bus 47, what kind of security situation? Are the children in immediate danger?" Sarah glanced in her mirrors again. The dark sedan had closed the distance and was now directly behind her bus. Through the tinted windshield, she could make out two figures in the front seats. "Negative on immediate danger, but I need units to intercept a dark blue sedan, license plate." Sarah rattled off the numbers with the same precision she'd once used to call in artillery coordinates. Her voice remained steady, but every military instinct was now fully engaged. She was no longer Sarah, the gentle bus driver. She was Staff Sergeant Chen, veteran of the 3rd Armored Division, and these children were now under her protection. The sedan suddenly accelerated, pulling alongside the bus. Sarah saw the passenger window rolling down and caught a glimpse of something metallic in the man's hand. Time slowed to a crawl, the same sensation she'd experienced during her first firefight in Kandahar province. Without hesitation, Sarah yanked the steering wheel hard to the right, using the bus's massive weight to force the sedan toward the curb. The military technique was called ramming speed positioning, and she executed it flawlessly. "Everyone down!" Sarah's command rang through the bus with such authority that every child, including the defiant Jake, immediately dropped to the floor without question. This wasn't the gentle voice they knew. This was the voice of someone accustomed to life and death situations, someone whose orders meant survival. The sedan's driver fought to regain control as Sarah maintained pressure, using her superior vehicle weight and tactical driving skills learned during convoy operations in hostile territory. She knew exactly how to use the bus as a 60,000-pound weapon while keeping her precious cargo safe. As the sedan scraped against the guardrail, Sarah was already 3 moves ahead, her mind operating with the strategic thinking that had made her one of the youngest tank commanders in her unit's history. She spotted a construction zone ahead, concrete barriers that would provide natural cover and limit the sedan's maneuverability. More importantly, she remembered that the Riverside Police Department was only 6 blocks away, and she knew exactly how to lead her pursuers into a tactical trap. "Dispatch, I'm proceeding to the police station via Riverside Boulevard. Suspects are attempting to force me off the road. I have 28 children on board and am taking evasive action." Her tactical briefing was crisp, professional, and left no doubt that this was someone with serious training. The sedan's occupants made a critical error. They underestimated their target. The passenger leaned out again, this time clearly brandishing a weapon. Sarah had been waiting for this moment. She slammed on the brakes with perfect timing, causing the sedan to overshoot. Then, in a maneuver that would have made her old tank crew proud, she executed a tactical reverse ram, backing into the sedan's front quarter panel with calculated precision. The impact sent the sedan spinning into the concrete construction barriers. Sarah immediately shifted back into drive and accelerated toward the police station, her hands steady on the wheel despite the chaos that had just unfolded. In her mirrors, she could see the sedan's occupants struggling to exit their damaged vehicle. "Is everyone okay back there?" Sarah called out, her voice already returning to its gentle tone, even as her heart hammered with combat adrenaline. A chorus of scared but unharmed young voices answered back. Jake Patterson, still on the floor where she'd ordered him, looked up at her with newfound respect and something approaching awe. Within minutes, Riverside police units had surrounded the disabled sedan, and Sarah pulled her bus into the police station parking lot like she was docking a ship. As officers approached her door, she was already compiling a mental after-action report, suspect vehicle description, timeline of events, tactical decisions made, and most importantly, confirmation that all civilians under her protection were safe and secure. Chief Detective Martinez approached the bus door, expecting to comfort a traumatized civilian driver. Instead, he found Sarah calmly conducting a head count of her students while simultaneously providing a precise tactical briefing over the radio. All 28 students accounted for and unharmed. Suspects neutralized at the construction zone on Riverside. Vehicle is disabled, but occupants may still be armed. "Ma'am, that was some incredible driving," Detective Martinez said as Sarah opened the bus door. "Where did you learn to handle a situation like that?" For the first time all morning, Sarah smiled. Not the gentle, patient smile the children knew, but the confident grin of a warrior who'd just successfully completed a mission. "3rd Armored Division, Fort Knox," she replied simply. "Tank Commander, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Turns out the skills transfer pretty well to school bus operations." The detective's eyes widened as the pieces fell into place. The tactical driving, the precise communication, the calm leadership under fire. As parents began arriving at the police station, word spread quickly through the community about what had really happened. Sarah Chen wasn't just their quiet bus driver. She was a decorated combat veteran who'd commanded main battle tanks in some of the world's most dangerous places. The woman they'd seen as meek and unremarkable had just used military tactics to protect their children against armed criminals. Jake Patterson was the first to approach her as they waited for his parents. "Mrs. Chen," he said quietly, his earlier bravado completely gone. "I'm sorry I was mean to you. I didn't know you were. I mean, that you were so..." Sarah knelt down to his level, her expression kind but serious. "Jake, you don't need to know someone's background to treat them with respect. Every person you meet has a story, has skills, has value. We remember that." As the last child was reunited with worried parents, Sarah prepared for the mountain of paperwork and debriefings that would follow. But more than that, she knew her quiet life as the unremarkable bus driver was over. Tomorrow, when she arrived at the depot, Big Mike and the other drivers would see her differently. The whole community would see her differently. Sometimes, she thought as she watched families embrace their children, the past doesn't stay buried. Sometimes it emerges exactly when it's needed most. Sarah Chen's story reminds us that heroes walk among us every day, often in the most unexpected places. The quiet neighbor, the patient teacher, the gentle bus driver, any of them might be carrying the weight of extraordinary service and sacrifice. Our military veterans transition back to civilian life, taking jobs that may seem ordinary but bringing with them skills, courage, and dedication forged in the crucible of service to their country. Sarah's quick thinking and tactical expertise that day didn't just save 28 children, it reminded an entire community that true strength isn't always visible on the surface. It taught young Jake Patterson and countless others that respect should be given freely, not based on assumptions about someone's capabilities or past. To all the veterans who continue to serve their communities in new ways, whether as bus drivers, teachers, mechanics, or in countless other roles, your service didn't end when you left the military. You carry forward the same values of duty, honor, and protection that defined your military career. If this story moved you, please subscribe to honor more heroes whose stories deserve to be told. Share this video to remind others that extraordinary people are all around us, protecting and serving in ways both big and small. And remember, the next time you meet someone whose quiet demeanor might make them seem unremarkable, consider that they might just be a hero in civilian clothes.